This is actually my first student film, so I had a look at this one, thought it was really good. I've looked at some of the other ones that are out there, and but yeah, first one.
Yeah, it's my first student film also. I've worked on some other shoots, but this was the first student film that I've had the pleasure of working on.
The very first day, the very first scene, I was fortunate enough to be chosen to direct that scene, and we had this wonderful shot that I had my camera guys doing, and they were using the crane to crane down from nice foliage shot down and show Ed on the bench, and it played out brilliantly. Like, it took a few takes in order to get it right, but on the very last take that we got of it, it was just spectacular.
I was also head of continuity, so anything that, well, we just pretty much had to make sure that every scene that was the same had to be exactly the same thing. So the bottle that Ed was holding, that was held in the same hand, all sorts of that sort of thing. So
I didn't like Ed, actually, whatsoever. Like our actor says, there's no redeeming qualities in that character. It all came down to how David Breen portrayed him in that he had to give that character a background that we never saw and try and make that character real to the people that are watching him and try and relate to this guy that's a total asshole.
When I first read through the script, the character that I portray, Ed, some of the vitriol that he seems to spew out in his dialogue for not just a student film but for any film was very confronting for a lot of people, and will definitely come across that way. And I thought it was definitely a challenge to try and portray that as a performer and to bring a humanity to a man or a character who on paper seemed to have no redeeming qualities at all.
Even though we lost time on the very first day of promotion, and then weather being as unpredictable as it was on day two, as a team we decided to push through, and we were really happy that we actually pushed through on day two, because we got back on schedule for day three, and we picked up the lost scene that we lost on day one, and day three just went like clockwork. Like, can't really say that I've worked on a lot of sets, but it just, we all had a bit of fun and had a bit of a joke and everything like that, but overall we had a really good time.
I don't know, I think day three, when we got to sort of mess around with the dolly track stuff, that was really good. Having access to equipment that we normally wouldn't have access to, things like the dolly, the shoulder rigs that we'd never really had much to do with until this particular shoot, I think has really pushed us all further as student filmmakers for now. But being able to see how they use those tools and the effect that has when you cutting that footage into the film.
With the shoot, having 12 different people direct 12 different scenes, it was really interesting to watch 12 different styles. So one director has their style of doing things, and then you spend an hour and a half on that director's way of doing things, and then you sort of get used to that, and then the next director comes along and they want to do their shot differently, and so you get used to doing it their way. And on a professional shoot, you get used to the same director, and you sort of get comfortable with what to expect, sort of what they're going to ask you, what kind of shots they like to use.
But making sure that data is collected correctly and stored correctly, and so that when you hand it to your editor, they can be like, okay, I know where this file is, it's managed correctly. And I believe that would actually help in making the process of editing a lot faster.
Went really well. I was worried, by the end of day one, I was really worried that we'd dropped a scene, we were behind schedule already after day one. But by the time we'd finished day 2 and we'd pick that scene back up and we'd sort of push through a bit of rainy weather, I pretty much knew we were fine by then, and that we'd be finished on day 3. And we set ourselves the challenge to finish this in 3 days, and we did it in 3 days. And I think that's fully transferable to if any of us ever goes on to do studio work or anything that has deadlines. It's, you know, it has to be finished on this time, within this time frame. And if it's not, you know, then that stuff is just moot. There's no reason to do that. So to fit it inside a schedule is really important and not go 3 days over.